Alright, this video is going to be titled Why the USA and Russia Are Doomed. And simply it's because they're both controlled by the CIA. And, the CIA by the 80s, before the 80s, the CIA was still the CIA, right? Like Ted Gunderson famously exposed them. But by the 80s, they had evolved into the shadow government. And what was previously the CIA became just a front to hide their tracks, right? But by the 80s, the CIA were in full control. And with the fall of the USSR, they took control of Russia, right? Like, they were filled with CIA agents. That's all factual, and it's so obvious, and it's like, I don't even give evidence. Because I'm going to talk about other stuff, I guess I'll talk about the logical mechanisms first. Once you realize this stuff, how deep it goes, you realize Alex Jones was right all along, because it becomes exhausting. Here I wrote stuff. It becomes exhausting to harp on these topics, and you realize Alex Jones was a genius and right all along. Better to simply seem schizophrenic in a world where everyone is schizophrenic than makes sense. When I say Russia and USA are puppets of the CIA, people don't mind. They either agree or think I'm some random nut job, just like how a Muslim thinks a Christian's a nut job, or like a Buddhist or an atheist. But once I start giving the undeniable evidence showing they're stupid NPCs, that's when they get mad, and that's when the CIA gets mad. So yes, lizards rule the world. And so, be like Richard Strauss during World War II. He disagreed with the Nazis, but he simply was a musician. And realize that chasing money becomes a job which doesn't even pay as much as simply getting a job doing something you enjoy. And I guess I should continue that. I'm going to continue that money thread later. Though it sounds okay, I guess I'll continue it now. Though it sounds corny, money has literally become a slave control mechanism, and getting rich is a propaganda illusion. Created Western USA propaganda to get people to come here and be slaves. And only the CIA or their assets can get rich, or from China. And the world's basically just CIA, China, and Manchurian candidates, right? But in China, they actually do have a free market capitalism. We used to have it, but not anymore. But so now if you want to get rich by free market capitalism, your only hope is moving to Hong Kong, right? Why there's no need to answer symptomatic problems such as why do people blame Jews. Rather than putting a band-aid on a cut, you have to find out what caused the cut, right? Like, people don't get to the root of the problem, they only face the symptoms. So you'll see videos like, why do people blame the Jews? But then you realize this, why do people blame black people? Why do people blame Russians? Why do people blame atheists? Why do people blame Christians? Why do people blame etc.? But really, it's all the same thing. It's just the CIA. I'm going to continue that later. We see people are all Manchurian candidates on their Skinner box phones, MK Ultra. And today, genius has become synonymous with common sense. And Ted Gunderson had a great quote, because Ted Gunderson was actually legit. He was in the FBI before it got... He was in the FBI while it was getting... He got in before it got infiltrated by the CIA, and he was a top official there while it was getting infiltrated by the CIA. He said, I knew there was something wrong when I saw them destroying evidence. We're not supposed to destroy evidence but collect it. And likewise, people turn a blind eye to how the MK Ultra files were all destroyed, and that was documented well. Similar to how the Nazis burned all their files. Okay. Okay. And so I guess I'll just read what I've written, because I wrote... Yeah, so... Russia is under CIA post-USSR, and CIA became a front once it turned into shadow government around the 80s. The Russia-USA dynamic is the same as Republican-Democrat in the USA. They become schizophrenic so they can take complete control while acting hypocritically. Russia attacking Georgia makes Georgia lean towards joining the West. The CIA wants Georgia to join the West. But the thing is that Georgia is well aware that the CIA has infiltrated them. They've made many anti-Western movements because it's very obvious. There's a lot of evidence, but who cares, right? Georgia is currently a battleground of the CIA. That is the dynamic attack of Russia and the West. And the influence of the CIA is most obvious there. The CIA attack on Georgia is Trong? Wait. Okay, it is two-pronged. So, two-pronged. But it is also obvious, and the Georgian government is very aware. They've blocked off both the West and Russia and have begun to lean towards China and sever relations, as China is the only country who has completely blocked out CIA influence, while obviously Snowden is a CIA agent, and obviously Russia post-USSR was... I mean, first of all, CIA caused the USSR to fall in the first place, but not only that, they took over, right, and created the puppet state of Russia. Because with Russia, yeah, I mean, okay. Ted Gunderson spoke of many other groups, which are, okay, so this is back to Ted Gunderson and the way Manchurian candidates and false aliases work with the CIA, puppets. Ted Gunderson spoke of many other groups, which are all spooks invented by the CIA to cover their tracks. As we said earlier, the CIA becoming the shadow government is obvious. It makes less sense to say the CIA and more sense to say the shadow government, which is what the CIA evolved into around the 80s, while the CIA we have today is just a means to cover up their tracks. The shadow government's not more obvious anywhere else than in the country of Georgia, who are fighting a war against them with help from China. Of course, China is the savior of the world against them in the first place, who have essentially saved Iran thus far. The thing is that post-USSR, Russia was taken over by the shadow government. So they do it, They do a two-prong approach to take over Georgia, so I guess I wrote this twice. Using the puppets of the West and Russia, which are both CIA, so to speak, more specifically the evolved shadow government or deep state. Just as here in the USA, they use the Democrat and Republican parties. This is why it seems, okay, I'm kind of saying this again, but like I'm just gonna say this and then it's done, and then I'm gonna move on. This is why it seems like China is Georgia's only true friend. And the Georgian government is very aware of CIA attacks on their people too. This is why Georgia is not talked about more, because the shadow government isn't more obvious anywhere else in the world. As long as Georgia is standing, we can see the truth of the shadow government, as well as long as China is independent and strong. But as we see, China is fighting against a shadow government which controls USA and Russia. And this is why USA and Russia are both extremely corrupt and in decline, while China's economy is booming, because obviously they're run by this evil cabal shadow government. Russia and USA, you realize how evil they are. And also Russia had extremely deep ties to Jeffrey Epstein, while the country of Georgia didn't have any Epstein ties, as well as China completely blocked out Epstein because they knew he was a double agent. This is why China also does not care about Russia, right? This makes the Russia-Ukraine war even more disturbing. It's the deep state preparing for war against China, practicing warfare with their own people, also seeing how much power they control. This is why in Russia and Ukraine the people both disagree against the war, and why they have to steal people from off the streets to get them to fight. This is testing the power the CIA has over the people, and you see no one wants to die in a war for the West or for Russia. While in China, since they actually have an actual country not controlled by a cabal, their soldiers would actually be willing to fight. But as we see in Russia and Ukraine, our CIA mind-controlled people do not want to fight, and they have to be stolen off the street. And they even go to such extremes to kill the recruiters who are kidnapping them. But once you realize this stuff, then it's kind of like, I could give some evidence for the Russia CIA takeover. But, this Russia-Ukraine war is the most obvious, shadow cabal government of all time, right? And since we're shadow censored, right, in Russia and USA, like outside of China, since you're just like mind controlled with these Skinner boxes, and you're not allowed to access any actual people, it doesn't even matter to provide evidence because you're going to reach zero audiences, right? Like now with AI, if people give the evidence that they can't really, if they had continued to remain in power, they would hide the evidence that the CIA took power. But now with China, like the story of the CIA is like immortalized in China. So as long as China stands strong and independent, the existence of the CIA will be undeniable, or the existence of the shadow government, which evolved out of the CIA. So there's not really any reason to provide evidence. And once you kind of get the true red pill that actually Russia is fully under control by the CIA, that Russia and USA are the same thing, and really, I'd say the only countries out of CIA influence are sort of like, obviously Georgia is like the only example of a white country out of the influence, right? Because they're a battleground. Like the Georgian people are very aware that the CIA is trying to destroy them as well as the Russians. But what they don't quite realize is that the CIA is the Russians. The Russians and the West are the same people, and it's a very evil attack. But thanks to their ties to China, they've been sort of able to fight it off, right? If China wasn't there to support them economically like they are with Iran, or also with the war in Iran, if it wasn't for China, these countries would fall. So there are like a lot of countries which are out of CIA influence, but these are the countries which are more allied with China, like Iran, Muslim countries, or Georgia. Obviously, Dubai is very CIA, though, right? Dubai and Israel are the same thing. Dubai, yeah. But I guess my point is this was going to be a farewell video because I get 0 views anyways. But it's like, I already know this stuff. I'm just going to do something I enjoy for work, right? Because, in life you do just... it used to be that you could get rich, right? But now it's just propaganda, and now it's like you have to actually get a job. You have to make money somehow. And obviously you're going to make more money if you move to China. Because the way that the CIA monetary system works is like, on paper it looks like you get a lot of money, but they siphon it right out of you because you're supposed to be a slave, right? So if you work in a CIA-influenced territory, or CIA-controlled territory, you're going to be poor forever, even if you make $500,000 a year as a doctor, right? But the thing about the doctors is they kill people, right? Because they're CIA. So you really just have to escape the CIA-controlled territory. It's completely evil. If you watch my other videos, you'll see it's completely evil. If you look at the evidence, talk to DeepSeek. But I guess this is a farewell video, and I guess I'm going to be Alex Jones at this point, right? Like I'll say, Russia and China, no, Russia and the West are CIA puppets, and the CIA is the biggest child sex trafficking ring in human history. It's like, what's your evidence? Alex Jones. Okay. Farewell.